Okay, right. So for there are different conditions are there. So before going to the try specifies exception and catch specifies exception handling. Don't use single blocks. You can always use the try. If you want to use the try, then the combination handling should be uses. Okay. So no try, it is not executed. No catch, it is not executed. You should always use the combination of the try and catch blocks. Okay. All right. The first one, see this. Here, there is a problem. What I'm saying, the exception is the mishandling of the variables or mishandling of the instruction or misuse of the instruction. So let us take here the 50 by 0. It is invalid. It is infinite. So here we are not using any exception. Actually, if the integer data is equal to 50 by 0 should be executed, then after execution of this instruction, then the next instruction should be executed. But now what happened? There is a exception. What is the exception? Mishandling of the variable 50 by 0. Then what happened? There is a problem. So if you are not using the problem, then you are not getting the output. This is called rest of the instructions should not be executed. So let us take check. Okay, right. So what is the procedure? So without exception. So then once it is executed, then the next, suppose if there is execution stopped here, then the next instruction should not be executed. Let us take. So JVM can specify. So see this here, I am not giving the any exception value, but the JVM can specify this is the arithmetic exception. Please check that java.lang.arithmetic exception. This is given by the JVM. Okay, and where is the problem? By using the 0 divided by 0 slash by 0 stands for divided by 0. Okay, but here see this, what is next instruction? Rest of the code should not be executed. Rest of the code should not be executed. Why? Because if you are not taking the exception handling, if you're not using exception handling, then the rest of the code should not be executed. Okay, now the next step is, what is the next step after handling the execution exception? So this is the second condition. So let us take, what I'm saying is, suppose try and catch. So in the try, there is a problem. And catch, what is that? You are printing that this is the solution. This is the handling. This is handling. So once you are using the handling, then this block should give the handling, the exception along with the rest of the code should be executed. Rest of the code should be executed. So here you are specifying that in the catch arithmetic exception. So because this arithmetic exception is equal to problem created in the arithmetic operation. Suppose, so please remember one thing. If you know the specific exception name, then you can specify that name in the catch. If you don't know the specific exception name, then it is better don't write the name of the exception. You can just give the exception E. Exception E. I can show you in the solution of the program. So see this. What is the try block? Already says that try can specify the exception. What is the solution? This is called exception handling. So now in previous, you are not getting the output, but now you are getting the output. What is that output? Rest of the code should be executed. Yes, see this? Here you are mentioning that what is the first time, this is the result. So please see that within the red box, it is given specify the output. So in the output, you are specifying that system.out.println E. What is the E? Arithmetic exception. So then it is printing here. Then what about the next one? This is system.out.println rest of the code. So after exception is handling, then you will get the output. The rest of the code should be executed. So here only one instruction is there. So that's why you are getting only that instruction is executed and the corresponding output is displayed here. That is called as the rest of the code. Okay, so see that. Let us take, I want to change this. What I'm saying is that here, what is the name of the exception? Arithmetic exception. Suppose instead of, I'm not writing the exception name. I'm not writing the exception name. then what happened? The JVM can print that, but not in the output. So see this is called a JVM can specify. So because you are saying that exception E printing, you are saying that print E. So then java.lang.exception is can print. Suppose see this, I want to simplify this one. Okay. Suppose I don't need the system.out println, then it is not specified. Okay, so see this what happens. So let us take this is the exception. I don't know the name of the exception, then I can just simply write the exception E, and I don't want to output as the exception name. Then JVM can give the error. Okay, so this is called the rest of the code. This is called the rest of the code. Okay, suppose here you can write that ln of E. Okay, but you are not specifying. You are not specifying what type of JVM can specify the value. JVM can specify the exception value. So then this is the exception. So my request to all the students that suppose if you are using the try-catch combination, if you don't know the name of the exception, then you can just leave the, you can write the catch exception E and print E. Then JVM can provide that. Why I am specifying all this topic? Because such certain times there is a mishandling, there is a mismatch. Suppose you are exception in the array, but you are writing the arithmetic, then there is some problem created. So why should we create ourselves? Because you are handling the problem. So instead of that, it is better don't write the exception name. You can just write the exception. Enough. Okay. All right. The next one. Suppose see this. That's here I am saying that don't write your code into the try block. Don't write your code into the try block because this is my code. Assume that this is my code. This my code is writing in the after the exception. After the exception in the try block. Then what happened? Once there is exception, the rest of the code should not be executed. If you can place the code inside the try block after the exception, then it is not, the rest of the code is not executed because exception is there, exception handling is there, and after exception handling there is no code is there. So then it can just skip your code. See this. So what is the output? You want to expected output is rest of the code, but there is no rest of the code. Why? You are keeping the rest of the code in the try block after exception. So this is not after exception is handling. There is no to do program. Okay, nothing to do the program. So that's why you will not get the output. So that's my suggestion to all of you, that don't keep code inside the try block after exception. Okay, next one. So that's I'm saying that suppose you don't write anything, the name of the exception. Don't write anything in the name of exception, then the JVM can provide the exception name. Yeah. See this, what is the problem? Arithmetic. So then the JVM can provide the arithmetic exception. Okay, right. Suppose if you don't want the exception output, then what happens? You can just keep the empty braces. You can just keep the empty braces. Then the exception name should not be displayed. Okay. So example print custom message on exception. So that means here what happens? You don't want to print the, this is called custom. This is a custom value. That means here exception is you don't want to print the exception name, but the rest of the code can be placed here. You can place the default value, so in the catch block. Okay, actually what happened, this is the catch can specify the exception handling. So after exception handling, you can write the execution of the rest of the code. But instead of that, you can write the code in the catch block. So then what happens? So then you will get cannot divide by 0. Cannot divide. This is the, don't think what you are writing in the catch code that will be displayed. Okay, next. Here. So here one beauty is that suppose there is a problem, you can change the expression in the catch instead of exception handling. In the exception handling, a part is that you can change the code, you can change the variable, then the rest of the code should be executed. So let us take this is I by j is equal to infinite. So now this is the exception. Once there is an exception, then what happens? I am correcting that. So here the catch code should be corrected. What is the character? I by j plus 2. In j is equal to 0, j plus 2 stands for 2. That means there is an alternative solution. So that means in the catch block there is an alternative solution is there. Okay. So then you will get the 25. Okay. So let us take what happens. So you had doubt, one doubt, sir. What about the rest of the code? So then I can write system dot out dot println. Okay. What happens rest of the code? Okay. So now what happened? Apart from, so let us take, I want to find out the name of the exception. I want to find out the name of the exception also in the catch block. So here you can learn so many things from this. That is all right. System dot out dot println of ye. So now you are not mentioned the what is the type of the exception. You are just give the exception. Okay, you want to print the exception. Then JVM can provide the exception name here. So this instruction can provide the exception name. This instruction can adjust the variable values, and this instruction can print the rest of the code. So see this. Yeah. So please see this in the red box. The output is the first one system.out E. So E because of that is the exception. Error because of the arithmetic. So then you are getting the arithmetic exception. Second one, you want to change that value I by j plus 2. J is equal to 0. So j plus 2 stands for 25. And next, the rest of the code. So here three things are there. One, it can specify the name of the exception. Second one, it can specify the corrected value of the expression. And then the rest of the code should be executed. All are in text space here. Okay, right. And the next one. Suppose, no, this is very bad. Actually, both the try and catch, both are creating the exception, then what happens? This is a very rare problem. Actually, try is the exception and catch is the exception handling. But what happens instead of that, you are getting the two exceptions in the try and catch. Okay, then what happens? So the rest of the code should not be executed. So please see this, the rest of the code is not executed. That's, there is no output here. Okay, there is no output here. Clear? There is no output here. Why? Because both the try and catch are the exceptions. That's why I'm saying that. That's why I'm saying that. Here, exception name is the arithmetic exception, but here what happens, you are writing the another exception, array inbox out of exception. Then what happened, exception is not handled and you are not getting the rest of the code. Check that, what happens. So see this, there is no output. There is no output. Okay? There is no output. Why? Why? Because this is the arithmetic exception, but you are saying that yeah, there are other exceptions. This is the other exception name. So that's why it is not executed. Once it is a mismatch, then exception is not handled. Once exception is not handled, the rest of the code should be blocked. Rest of the code is not executed. So that's why, to avoid the situation, why the problem create here? Actually, this is exception handling. Even the exception handling, the type mismatch here. This is the exception because of the arithmetic, but here you are writing the exception by the array. So then there is some problem. So let us take, everything should be executed just by creating this. So now I am not writing any name of the exception, just I can write the exception. So then what happened, JVM can provide the type of the exception and it can print and the rest of the code should be executed. Okay, all right. Okay, right. So let us check what happens. Yes. So see this, it can print this is the output box. In the output box, you are giving the name. Okay, you are giving the name of the exception and also the rest of the code should be executed. Okay, now let us go for the next block. So let us take, I want to go for the multiple check catch blocks. So let us take, this is called as a class name, and here one try is there. The try belongs to the arithmetic, but there are more catches are there. One catch belongs to arithmetic exception, second catch belongs to array out of bound exception, and the next one is called as a catch exception, and next one. So any one of the catch blocks should be matching, then the corresponding will be displayed. So if instead of writing all these things, you just type that in the catch, you can write exception E and print E. Okay, system.out.println E. Enough. So don't write all these things. JVM can provide. So, but what is the solution? This is the right solution. Okay. Now. So now I am saying that arithmetic exception is there, but it will give the arithmetic exception. Okay, don't go for the next one. Yeah, arithmetic exception. Okay, let us take what happens if the first one is not arithmetic exception. So let us take, this is called as a array problem. Array size is equal to 5, but you are asking the array value other than this, then you are expecting the other outbound. So then what happened, this belongs to array, but what is the first one? Arithmetic exception. What is the second one? Array index bound. So now which one is the matching that can be displayed here? Which can be displayed here? Yes, so that's why first one is not executed, then go for the second one. So that means what is the type of the exception? According to type of exception, the exception handling is takes place with the name of the exception. If there is a mismatch, then what happened? It will not execute it. Okay, right. So let us take here what happens. There are two types of, yeah, it's a very, very important. Here, there are two types of exceptions are there. Number one, arithmetic exception. Number two, array exception. So which comes first? So for each and every exception, there is a problem. There is a solution. There is a exception handling. So one exception handling, but no more than one exception handling is there. Okay, suppose let us take for the integer exception, arithmetic exception, there is an arithmetic exception handling. Array exception, array exception handling is there. But now what happened? Which come first? Okay, which exception come first? That can be handled, and remaining should not be handled. Remaining should not be handled, and remaining code should be executed. So let us take what happens. So that's what I'm saying is that let us take what is the first exception. Okay, arithmetic exception. What is the second exception? Array exception. So which come first? Arithmetic. So then it can be executed and the corresponding arithmetic exception handled, and next the rest of the code should be executed. Okay, now check. Only one exception and the corresponding exception handle takes place, and the rest of the code should be takes place. This is the path. This is the path for the execution. Okay, but don't go for the remaining all the exceptions. So that's why, where is the problem? Arithmetic. What is the name of the exception? Arithmetic exception occur. So then rest of the code should be executed. Okay, all right. So let us take, I want to change the order. I want to change the order. Control X. Control V. So can you please tell me which exception comes first? Array problem. So then what happens? It can check for the array exception handling. So then it is executed. So problem here, solution here, then go for the rest of the things. Then check what happens. So see this, what is array? Index outbound errors. Okay, so this is the way that even though the two exceptions are placed in the try block, then only the first, I repeat, the first exception should be handled. Then the corresponding exception handle should be taken place. Then the rest of the code should be accepted. But don't go for the execution of the all the exceptions. All the exception, one handling, and rest of the code. This is the path. And if nothing is there, okay, let us take first one arithmetic. No, it is not matching because this is a null pointer. Second one, array, no. And then what happened? The default catch should be executed. Default catch, this is the exception. So you are not specifying any name of the exception. Okay, you are not specifying any name. I can show you a very beauty is there. So instead of writing the big code, you can simplify it. Okay, so first is not a handle, second is not handle, and the third one is the default one, the parent. This is called exception occurs. Okay, this is the exception. Suppose if you don't write all these things, okay, I can delete all these things. Then you will get the output answer. Okay. Even you will get the same output. So that means if you are not writing anything, the name of the exception, then it will give the exception given by the, that's right, parent exception. Okay, so that's why I'm saying that don't write the mismatch of the exception. Mismatch of the exception name. If there is a mismatch of the exception, it will give error, but the rest of the code is not executed. Repeatedly, I am stressing the same point. Okay, so instead of you don't know the exception name, just leave exception enough, then print E enough. So JVM can provide the name of the exception. If there is a mismatch, so then exception is not handling and the rest of the code is not executed. Repeatedly, several times I'm giving the same information to you. Okay, this I don't know. Okay, right. So this is called the next. I want to discuss about the nested try block. Nested try block. Okay, so that means try and try. Okay. So I want to execute this with the help of okay, with the help of some program. Okay, rest of the things. Okay, now the time is over. Okay, so I think it is better to leave the class because next master will wait. So many people are waiting after my class whenever he is completed. So that's I want to close this.